Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy. Welcome back to What a Creep. I am Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. This is Season 3, Episode 4. Sonia's going to be giving us the story this week of our creep. But I just want to say at the top of the show, we are starting a Patreon page. Go to patreon.com, What a Creep Podcast, and you will find us, and we have 3 very affordable options. And 5 of you already have signed up, even though we haven't created anything yet. And those people are Kelly, Christine, Hillary, Michelle, and Taru. Taru's in Finland, by the way.
Damn, we're international.
We are so international. I was checking our stats. We are all over the world. So you guys, thank you so much for reaching out. And we're just going to be you can check for yourselves, patreon.com/What a Creep Podcast. And you can find out what we're going to be offering there. And it just gives us a little extra bread, just a little extra bread. What am I, in the 70s? Oh my God.
A little extra cheddar.
We're just going to go to the Regal Beagle when we're done and disco dance. It's a little extra scratch, as my dad would call it. Just a little money to help us with the costs of like putting on the podcast, which is mostly like the hosting and things like that. So you guys,
right.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We're gonna have bonus eps and fun things like that. And we also got a 5-star review. I love this name, Amy the Heathen. Gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So thank you guys so much. And it really means a lot to us because every once in a while, people that love the creeps listen to our episodes and then try to creep at us. So it's really, we love hearing from you, reaching out on Facebook and Twitter, sending emails saying how much you like the show. It really gives us a lot of energy and makes us keep going and fighting off the creeps. And also, it also helps us look for people who are non-creeps, and we want to get their name out there too. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it's awesome that I know some people have been emailing us or sending us messages about people that they think are great non-creeps, and that is awesome. We will take those requests and put them on the list as well. Like, you guys are awesome at letting us know about creeps, and I'm so glad that you guys are also letting us know about non-creeps.
It really,
you guys are rad.
They're rad.
We have great listeners.
They're the best. They're the smartest. They're funny. They're awesome. So you guys, thank you so much. And you can find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's at What a Creep Podcast. We are on Twitter at CreepPod because the person that has What a Creep has been sitting on it since 2009.
Creep.
I've been waiting for you to say that. And we have an email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Great place to, reach out, say hi, give us your suggestions. But also, we have some stickers. If y'all want a What a Creep sticker, I'll put that in the mail for you. So that's a great way to reach out to us. And the way we do the show is this. We take turns talking about a creep for one episode, and then the other person talks about someone who is not a creep. So we don't leave you in total despair when the episode is over. Yeah. And we have a Bay Area creep, do we not, Sonia?
We do. He is a little too close to home for me. This week, I am talking about Scott Adams, which is a name that people may not recognize, but they probably know Dilbert, which is a comic strip, a very popular comic strip. And Scott Adams is the cartoonist behind that, and he's a real dog. That's an insult to dogs. I take that back. He's a real creep. Are you ready to hear about him?
Go for it.
Okay. I put this together with a little help from my friends at, of course, Wikipedia, Jezebel, the New York Times, The Outline, AV Club, Rational Wiki, which is the thing I just learned, Comics Alliance, Britannica, the Harvard Business Review, and Scott Adams' own blog called Adam Scott Says. Dilbert, in case you don't know, is a comic strip about an office drone named Dilbert and his dog, Dogbert. It's about office culture and micromanaging bosses and annoying coworkers. It's created by Scott Adams, and you'd think that the creator of Dilbert, a comic about workers and shitty bosses, would be like on the side of workers. But unfortunately, Scott Adams is just another rich asshole who doesn't want to pay his fair share in taxes. He's also a climate change denier and a big believer in the men's rights movement.
Woo!
Men's rights movement, because they're so persecuted. So I want to say right off the bat that Scott Adams is conservative, and I'm not saying that being a conservative automatically makes you a creep. We have been accused of that, and that is not true. And I'm not talking about that. Like, there are conservatives out there who are not creeps, who are good people. They're, not these kind of assholes. But
no, you and I, let's just say,
don't.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You and I both have family members and people.
Ahead.
You and I both have family members and people in our lives that are conservative. So we're not just like in a little liberal bubble that we don't know what's going on in the world. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. No, I just wanted to make it very clear. Like, there is no like, oh, he's a conservative, so fuck him, he's a creep. Like, that's not what I'm doing here. Like, if you're the kind of person who doesn't care if the government stomps all over basic human rights or promotes racism or homophobia, if you don't care that the president is like this ignorant egomaniac who has put our entire country in danger, you don't care that the president's been credibly accused of rape multiple times just because you want a big fat tax cut, well, you're kind of a creep. So,
yep.
Sorry, you are. That kind of conservative is a fucking creep. So, in other words, Scott Adams is a selfish creep. So let's start at the beginning. Scott Adams was born June 8th, 1957 in Windham, New York, the son of Paul and Virginia Adams, a post office worker and a real estate agent. He was always very obsessed with the Peanuts comic strip, as a lot of us were when we were kids. And he actually started drawing his own comic at age 6, and he won a drawing competition at age 11.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm like, that's pretty cool. He graduated valedictorian from Wyndham Ashland Jewett Central School in 1975. It was a class of 39 kids. And then he would say, the other 39 people in my class couldn't spell valedictorian. He's a dick. What a dick. I'm like, those poor people. Like, whatever. Anyway, he attended Hardwick College and graduated in 1979 with a degree in economics. And then eventually he went to UC Berkeley and graduated with a master's degree in 1986. In the early 80s, Scott worked for Crocker National Bank in San Francisco. Do you remember Crocker National Bank?
Barely.
They don't exist anymore, but what I remember was they used to give away like stuffed Cocker Spaniels when you like opened an account or something. And I remember just receiving those from like my parents' friends were like, here, I got a stuffed dog, or like throw it to me. So I had like a couple of them. That's the only thing I remember about Crocker National Bank. So that was here in San Francisco. He says that while he was working there as a teller, he was robbed twice at gunpoint. That must have been fucking scary.
Yeah, I have been.
It's off. That's awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's
yeah,
awful.
I've
It'll
loved
mess
them
with
today. Yeah.
It'll mess with your head. But from 1986 to 1995, Scott worked in the technology and finance departments for Pacific Bell in San Ramon, California.
Okay, I know that very well. My parents lived in Danville.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
that's right by there. He's still a Bay Area guy. He lives in Pleasanton, California. That's about 40 miles outside of San Francisco. He's a little too close to me, in my opinion, but that's okay. You know, what are you going to do? Get a security system, I guess. It was during his time at Crocker Bank and Pacific Bell that he was kind of inspired by Dilbert about, like, he kind of had these like micromanaging, like, bosses and, crazy coworkers that do stupid things, or, kind of that like mundane office culture stuff.
Sure.
If you don't read Dilbert, congrats, you have great taste. I think Dilbert's fucking boring, but whatever. The comic strip Dilbert was first published in 1989. He was still employed at Pacific Bell when that happened, and he kept his job. He worked on his cartoons at 4 a.m. and then he would work a full day in the office. His first paycheck for Dilbert was like he got like a monthly check, and it was $368.62, which isn't a lot of money, which is why he kept his day job.
Right.
Smart. Eventually, he told the Harvard Business Review, in my case, I couldn't quit my day job right away because the comic started slowly. Working full time, it was just a necessity. Once Dilbert became a workplace comic, it turned out I was getting so much material from my day job that having two jobs actually made both of them easier. So then he went on to say that he stayed at his day job because he didn't really give a shit if he got fired.
Which is the total dream, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was getting all this material for his comic strip,
sure.
Which, there's a reason why Dilbert is insanely popular, because there's a lot of it is based in that kind of truth. And I'm telling you, at least once a week, I sit in a presentation where someone uses a Dilbert cartoon.
Oh my God.
Always. I just sat in one yesterday. And I was like, I wish he knew that the fucking Dilbert creator is such a creep. But whatever. Like, I'm not going to like stand up in the middle of a conference and be like, he's a creep. So I have to let it go. Scott finally left his job at Pac Bell in 1995. And that's the same year he published his first book, The Dilbert Principle. Dilbert has been syndicated in more than 2,000 newspapers. It's in 57 countries. It's in 19 languages. Dilbert's insanely popular. There's a total of more than 60 Dilbert books.
What?
60. That's 60.
That's
Isn't
insane.
that insane?
That's insane.
So there's all these books that, some of them are like original Dilbert, some are like compilations or whatever. He's also written several non-Dilbert books, including one called God's Debris, The Religion War, Stick to Drawing Comics, Monkey Brain, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And then he's got this one called Win Bigly, Persuasion in a World Where Facts Don't Matter. And he has a new one coming out that's like Loser Think. I think it's coming out in November, but whatever. So let's talk a little bit about Win Bigly. Scott claims that Donald Trump's victory in 2016 was due to Trump being a, quote, master persuader with a deep understanding of persuasion in the human mind. Sure, Jan. It sounds to me like Scott Adams like really believes the art of the deal, and I think it's clearly not true. So let's get to his like creep factor. I'm going to start listing a bunch of the stupid shit that he says on his blog, basically. So get ready. In the introduction to one of his books called Your New Job Title is Accomplice, it's a compilation of Dilbert comic strips, but he wrote a new introduction. He claims that he suffered reverse discrimination in the 90s, alleging that his bosses at the time told him he was unqualified for any sort of promotion because he had boring DNA and a scrotum. Yes. Sure. Yeah. Reverse discrimination's not really a thing.
No.
It's also, that would just be called discrimination. That's
right.
why I'm saying reverse discrimination's not a thing. Back in 2007, Scott started his blog, and it's filled with all kinds of stupid shit. It's like how men can't look manly while they're holding a woman's purse at the store, or whatever, just that kind of crap. What's the deal with grape nuts? That kind of shit. That's when he started kind of repeating these like men's rights activist talking points, and he started to get political too. And once again, I don't think getting political makes him a creep, but you'll see. Scott claims that he's left of Bernie, but, quote, with better economic skills.
What?
He thinks very highly of himself. He thinks he's very, very smart. And if you read any of his blog posts and you don't like what he said, it's because you're too stupid to understand it.
It's the audience's fault.
Yes, that's my favorite. I don't understand someone who says they're left of Bernie and then goes on to like endorse Donald Trump and then like become like a Trumper. I'm like, I don't know how that's a thing. You're privileged beyond belief,
right?
If that's a thing for you. A real Bernie supporter would never vote for Trump. A whole other side topic. Scott wrote on his blog that men may feel emasculated by the nomination of a female candidate for president. of the 2016 Democratic National Convention, he wrote, this is a quote, "If you're an undecided voter and male, you're seeing something different. You're seeing a celebration that your role in society is permanently diminished, and it's happening in an impressive venue that was, in all likelihood, designed and built mostly by men."
Oh, shut up.
Right? It just gets worse. It gets worse. Here's another quote. "Powerful men have been behaving badly," and then it says like tweeting, raping, cheating, and being offensive just about everyone in the world. "The current view of such things is that men are to blame for their own bad behavior. That seems right. Obviously, we shouldn't blame the victims. The part that interests me is that society is organized in such a way that the natural instincts of men are shameful and criminal, while the natural instincts of women are mostly legal and acceptable."
So he's
in
into
other
rape?
words, men are born as I guess so. Men are born as round pegs in a society of of square holes.
Oh, for God's sakes.
We're asking men not to be men. They want to rape and cheat and be offensive. He's such an asshole. Like, you guys, I went to his blog. I read a whole bunch of his stuff. I tried listening to like some of his like Periscope things. It's fucking shitty. He's a shitty person. I'm sorry. I hate that the guy behind Dilbert's so shitty, but he is. He also compared women wanting equal pay to a temper tantrum thrown by a child that wants candy.
Ugh.
Or a mentally handicapped person with violent tendencies. He wrote, "The reality is that women are treated differently by society for exactly the same reason that children and the mentally handicapped are treated differently. It's just easier this way for everyone. You don't argue with a 4-year-old about why he shouldn't eat candy for dinner. You don't punch a mentally handicapped guy, even if he punches you first. And you don't argue when a woman tells you she's only making 80 cents to your dollar. It's the path of least resistance. Save your energy for more important battles."
Let me guess. He's single?
Fucking. I think he has a girlfriend.
No.
He was married and divorced.
Okay.
He's married and divorced, but he's got a girlfriend. But maybe she's fine with it. He's rolling in those big fat Dilbert dollars.
No. He takes her to the Stone Ridge Mall and she could buy whatever she wants and whatever. So, okay. We all have our price.
Yeah, they go to the hot dog on a stick and she can get whatever she wants on the menu.
She goes to the
He's
Nordstrom's.
a big spender. Mm-hmm.
It's in Pleasanton.
He's such a creep. In 2016, he sarcastically endorsed Hillary Clinton, and he said that he was only doing it because he was afraid for his life, and that writing Clinton's new strategy of attacking Trump as a racist was, quote, likely to trigger a race war. And then he said he would be a, quote, top 10 assassin target. Yes. Everyone cares what the dude from Dilbert thinks. I know if I made my list of people I was going to kill, he would totally be on it. He would not be on it. I seriously.
You go to that 680, 580 junction and just look for him.
He walk in that mall, hanging around the Crow Canyon cinemas.
We're cracking each other up.
Waiting for him to go to see the new Kirk Cameron movie or something, and I'll get him. He's so self-involved, and he thinks he's so smart. Yes, he would be a top 10 assassin target. No, you wouldn't. Nobody cares about you. You're an asshole. He also said that if ISIS didn't attack the U.S. before the 2016 election, it was proof that ISIS wanted Hillary Clinton to be president.
Ugh.
Oh, he's the worst. He also wrote, I got so much from his blog, you guys. If Clinton wins, it will be because women voted for her in a landslide, while men on average preferred Trump. Of course, this isn't true. A majority of voters in this country, male and female, voted for Hillary Clinton. And then he said, that means two things of historic importance. One, we will elect the first woman to be president of the United States. That's good for everyone. And two, everything that goes wrong in the country from this point forward is women's fault.
Okay. First of all, Donald Trump had a lot of white women who voted for him. So it's not like we vote in lockstep with just because a woman's running. So fuck you, Scott. Dilbert.
Yeah.
Dilbert.
Yes.
That's her name, Dilbert.
Dilbert. Fuck Dilbert. Said the following 4 years would be, quote, the worst in our country's history. And that Clinton would be buried in scandals, quote, both real and imagined. And I'm like, well, if you replace Clinton with Trump, you are not wrong.
Right.
It is
Exactly.
the worst. And most of the scandals are real. And then this one really pissed me off. He went on to say, this is in the same thing. Men had a good run. We invented almost everything. And that's cool. But we also started all of the wars and committed most of the crimes. True. It's a mixed record, to be sure. Now it's time for something different, apparently. Hillary Clinton is all yours, lady. She and her alleged rapist husband are now your brand. Wear them well. Fuck you.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to defend Bill Clinton because
No.
he's a creep, and we're going to talk about him in a future episode. But the throwing in the alleged rapist, would you support Donald Trump, who's been credibly accused of multiple rapes and sexual assault? You could fuck off forever with that shit. Fuck you, Scott Adams. He's so gross. I know this is one of your favorite things. Don't you love it when men talk over women? Do you love it?
Oh, it's so great.
It's my favorite thing too. In 2015, he wrote that men talking over women in meetings is inevitable, as women are more likely to be interrupted because we're more verbal than men, and anyone who talks too long without adding enough value is fair game.
Which,
I guess
by
we
the
don't add
way,
enough value.
By the way, I've been in many, many meetings in my, career over the last 20 years. I've never had a woman say out loud, "This is more of a comment than a question." Never. It's always a basic dude who just has to say something. Right. I mean, ugh. Fuck you.
Yeah. Or they repeat something that you already said, and then other dudes in the room go, "That's a great idea, Steve."
Yeah, they steal credit.
Oh, that drives me nuts. Yeah. Oh, I hate that shit. It's like you weren't listening to anything I just said, and now Steve has taken my great idea. Fuck you, Steve.
Steve sucks.
He totally sucks. Other things in 2015, Scott complained about how sex was not a guaranteed reward for being nice to women, and that access to sex requires consent. That's good. We like that. And then he goes on this whole thing about, like, when I go to dinner, I expect the server to take my date's order first. I expect the server to deliver her meal first. I expect to pay the check. I expect to be the designated driver, or at least manage the transportation for the evening. And on the way out, I will hold the door for her and then open the car door for her. When we get home, access to sex is strictly controlled by the woman. If the woman has additional preferences in terms of temperature, beverages, and whatnot, the man generally complies. If I fall in love and want to propose, I am expected to do so to set the tone for the rest of the marriage. Hard to believe that he's divorced.
Yeah, I was just going to say, wow.
And then he goes on to say that males have such an uncontrollable need for sex that denying them sex leads them to violence and sometimes suicide.
I can't even with that one. I can't even. It's like whenever I used to listen to another comic. I'm not going to mention his name. I'll tell you off the air. But he had a podcast that I enjoyed. But he also would say some sexist shit sometimes. And his thing was like, when people would say, "Why did this man cheat on his wife? She's so beautiful, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "'Cause it's sex, and men have to have sex." That's like, no, you can say no to things. It's, it's not that much of a biological need. I get urge, sure, but need isn't a whole other thing altogether. And this makes me sick.
Yeah, this kind of shit pisses me off because the thought process, it puts back on women, it puts it back on us, like the blame for like the shit that men do.
Right.
If we had been nicer to him, if we had fucked this guy that we don't want to fuck, he wouldn't have killed everybody. Well, fuck that. It's not our responsibility to like sleep with men just so that they won't do these things. It's bullshit. And
no.
That's why I put it in my notes, because I don't like it.
No.
Here's some other random shit he said. In 2016, Scott wrote that V-neck sweaters are, quote, the uniform of a man who is owned by a woman. I think men who own V-neck sweaters should be offended. That's some bullshit. I've never bought a V-neck sweater for a man in my life. That's ridiculous. That's just stupid.
That's dumb.
That's not even really that creepy. It's just dumb. I had to point it out. Here's some other shitty things he's done. There was a shooting in Gilroy. It was earlier this year, Gilroy, California. They went to the Garlic Festival, and there was a shooting, and a couple people died. And right after the shooting, Scott Adams went on Twitter and sent out a tweet encouraging witnesses to use his app to get paid for interviews.
Oh, my God.
It's pretty gross. And then he told the New York Times, like, I wouldn't do it the same way again. He said, noting that he promoted his company during 2 natural disasters. Apparently he did it once before without generating any resistance. And then the reporter asked him, what about the fee that his company collects per interview? And he said, if you think $5 is money, I don't.
Wow.
Oh. I'm like,
wow.
He's just no empathy for anyone at all, ever. You know, for some people, $5 is it's money.
Yeah.
We don't all have 60 Dilbert books, asshole. Let's see. He also recently wrote on his blog about climate change. You can imagine how that went. He was telling kids that they don't need to worry. If you're worried about rising sea levels, don't be. The smartest and richest people in the world are still buying property on the beach. They don't see a problem.
Oh my
and if
God.
sea levels do rise, it will happen slowly enough for people to adjust.
Oh my God.
The smartest and richest people, the bigliest, most perfect, smartest, richest people in the world are buying property on the beach.
Well, the best people.
All the best people.
Yeah.
I hope the ocean swallows him up. He's also appeared on InfoWars with Alex Jones multiple times.
Oh, great.
And in case people don't know who that is, Alex Jones is the asshole who believes that the Sandy Hook massacre, which left 20 children and 6 adults dead, is a hoax. Cool friend, Scott Adams. And if you go to Scott Adams' Twitter page, and I don't recommend it, Twitter will recommend that you follow people like Charlie Kirk and Breitbart News.
Oh, great.
It's like you might also like these huge racist assholes. Like, it's so ridiculous. So just really, in conclusion, you guys, Scott Adams is a creep, and I prefer Drabble anyway. That's all I have to say about Scott Adams.
Oh, he's just, I saw him do a Twitter exchange with a woman, and she's an African-American woman. And she was talking about going to college and, you know, how hard it was to kind of find your identity. She went to like Princeton or something like that. Let's just say that. She went to an Ivy League school. And he quoted her and then wrote back. I said, oh, please, dear, you're a light-skinned black woman. You get it easy. They want people like you to show up there. You didn't have to do anything to make it. And just was so condescending and so racist and sexist and terrible. And just like, he's a total creep.
He's a total creep, and like just the picture of white privilege.
Yeah.
And I hate people that think they're so fucking smart and they're not. It drives me nuts. I'm like, maybe he is smart about certain things, but that doesn't mean you're smart about everything, dude.
No, no. Look at Mark Zuckerberg.
Not, you know, yeah. Both of these guys, like, no empathy,
right,
for anyone outside of like their bubble. It's sad. It's depressing. It's frustrating. And he's a creep. I'm glad to get that off my chest. And if I could go the rest of my life without seeing a presentation without Dilbert comics in it, I would be really happy.
So
Please and thank you.
Yes. I think that's your homework, everybody. If you're in a meeting and somebody puts up a Dilbert cartoon, go to that person afterwards and just kind of let them know what the real deal is about this guy.
Yeah. He's gross.
Well, do you want to hear about someone who's not a creep?
I sure do. Please.
Okay, so I'm going to have a sip of wine, and then we're going to talk about a lovely female who is not a creep. All right, Sonia, do you know who?
Yes.
Do you know who Marissa Ocachella is? It's either Ocachella or Ocasella. I'm sorry. It's Acocella.
I do not.
Well, she is a graphic novelist and a comic drawer, creator, writer. She was born 1962 in New Jersey girl. She started working in advertising, and she rose up to the rank of VP at Young and Rubicam, which is actually a pretty big company. In 1993, she created a cartoon strip called She, which was her alter ego. And it became a regular column in Mirabella magazine. And then later she wrote the graphic novel, Just Who the Hell Is She? The Autobiography of She. And and she became a graphic novelist after this, a comic writer and a graphic novelist, a cartoonist, In 2004, she married restaurateur Silvano Marchetto. And 3 weeks before her wedding, she found out that she had breast cancer. And she started writing it down, her experiences of having breast cancer and going through, the treatments in the hospital and her life. And she decided that she wasn't going to call herself a cancer victim, but she was going to call herself a cancer vixen. And that's how she was going to fight what was going on. Like, she called herself a vixen. And she created the novel Cancer Vixen. Part of her story was trying to get treatments without health insurance because her health insurance had just dropped.
Oh, man.
So it's really... Cancer Vixen was one of Time Magazine top 10 graphic novels of the year. And it's one of those, I've passed this around to a couple of friends who went through breast cancer. And it's just a super empowering novel, and it still holds up. If you follow the hashtag Cancer Vixen on Twitter or on Instagram, you'll find other women who have this book, and it's been totally inspiring to them. The last thing she wrote was Antenna, and it's ANN and capital TENNA, in 2015. And she was the founder of the Cancer Vixen Fund, which funded mammograms for uninsured women. It's now known as the Marissa Ocachella Marchetto Foundation, and she helps uninsured women with programs to help things with like stopping hair loss from chemotherapy treatments, also just stuff like yoga and journaling and exercise, and just helping women deal with that. And her motto is no breast left behind. And you could find her, Marissa Coachella, on Twitter. She's fighting the good fight. She is currently a cartoonist for The New Yorker. And that is our non-creep this week, Marissa Ocachella, Acocella. And it's called Cancer Vixen. And just follow that hashtag on Instagram, and you're going to feel all kinds of inspired.
That is such a good one.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. I can't comprehend that I have not read this.
I can't.
As someone who's gone through breast cancer twice, I
Yeah.
don't understand that this has not crossed my path.
It's
But
incredible.
now it will.
Yeah. I was working for Modern Bride magazine in 2004 and 2005. We did a whole feature on her at the time. So that's why she's always kind of been stuck in the back of my mind. So when you said you were going to be working on Dilbert, I was like, I got to find a cartoonist that's a woman. And I was like, it can't be Kathy. I can't take those Kathy cartoons. It's just, I couldn't do that. And then I remembered Marissa, and I'm like, oh, we should talk about her. So that's our non-creep this week. And you guys, please, if you have ideas for creeps, reach out to us on social media. Our particular favorite is getting on Twitter, getting the Annie Potts. We got them from Ghostbusters, that GIF, and putting in your suggestion. But people are getting creative and finding other ones where people say we got one. So that's also kind of cool. But you can follow us on social media at What a Creep on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, we're at CreepPod. Our email is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And we also co-host another podcast called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies and pop culture. So if you're looking for something a little lighter, go for that. That drops every Sunday. Yes. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and on Twitter at thesoniashow. And you can find Dorking Out at dorkingout.com and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fitchick. That's for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com. And I will be back next week. We'll be talking about a new creep. He's a Canadian creep. Some of you might know who I'm talking about.
Canadian creep.
Canadian creeps.
We're getting international. Creeps know no bounds.
So we'll be back next week, you guys.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.